Oh, cool. We are live. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining our today's stream. We will talk about NFTs. As before, we will have just a friendly conversation about a topic which is very hot right now. And today we have five guests, five people on the stage. Let's call it a stage. So, guys, I will ask you to introduce yourself in a couple sentences. So, Stan, let's start from you, and could you please introduce yourself?
Before I introduce myself, I want to say that you're wearing a very nice suit, so that makes
Thank
it a
you.
stage, right? So hi everyone, my name is Sten Laureyssens. I'm strategic advisor for the Waves Association. And specifically for today in topic of NFTs, I think I have a very long background with gaming, skin gambling, skins. So I'll definitely represent the more gaming side of the NFT store today. And I'll pass on the torch to Aleksei.
Hello, everyone. I'm Aleksei Pupyshev, the co-founder of Neutrino Protocol and Gravity Protocol. And I like NFTs. Actually, I was a digital artist several years ago. And actually, I'm a bit fear what's happening right now. So I'm here to discuss that we have new tulip money. And I'm kind of like, pessimist here for today. Thanks for inviting me here.
Jay?
Hey everyone,
Hey.
Jay Karahashi Sofue from Avalanche team, VP of Marketing at Ava Labs, the company building Avalanche. So really excited to kind of just share the stories we were talking about it earlier, right before the stream went on. Been involved in NFTs pretty much since CryptoKitties, so since the beginning, and then also an artist myself too. So just interested on those applications, not entirely sure where it's going, but asking the right questions, I think.
Cool. Thanks for joining us today, Jay, because almost all other guys are somehow related with Waves. So having Avalanche today, it's pretty nice. So thank you for joining. Vladimir?
I'm Vladimir, developer, advocate at Waves, and also I'm the head of membership working group at Waves Association and author of Waves Association DAO. I'm not a big fan of digital art, but it will be really interesting to discuss the future of NFTs because we have many fields to implement it. So it will be a great talk, I guess. Thanks, Inal.
Cool. So maybe we'll have one more guest during the stream, maybe not, it depends. So we'll maybe have one creator of NFT marketplace. We hope that he's gonna join, but it depends on many things. So my name is Inal. I'm a developer advocate also at Waves and Waves Association board member. So let's start, guys. I think enough of introductions. Let's talk about NFTs. And before we start fighting, I guess today we have to fight because NFTs is very, very hot topic and there are many controversial things happening around NFTs. I just want to mention that a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, there was the first wave of NFTs, let's call it so. Many conferences, many articles, videos on YouTube talking about NFTs. NFTs are the future of gaming industry. That digital assets in games, they should be everything should be on the blockchain. If there was a project in the Waves ecosystem called Item Market or something like that, and some games even tokenized their assets, in-game assets, but 2 years later, what we see now, we see that nothing actually happened with the tokenized assets in games. So my question is, how do you guys think? Will these, I don't want to call it a bubble, but will this hype around NFTs end up as NFTs 2 years ago? Or this hype is a little bit different? Maybe not a little bit. So who's gonna start?
Stan, probably, because you started from the good point of games.
Yeah, it's. I think in the topic for gaming specifically, it's a complex thing. I think most people have seen Ready Player One, and that probably is like a certain direction that you could go in with like NFTs. Let's say 10, 20 years into the future. I think what I've seen and it's maybe unfamiliar for most people, but World of Warcraft or Counter-Strike, there was a very clear sense where you had in-game items that were unique to you, that had a unique visual aspect where certain parameters were randomly generated, but you could see all the parameters and you know, okay, this skin, this is mine. I'm the one seeing it in game and I'm using it. The only difference was that you never really owned the skin. For example, if they would ban your account, then you would lose that skin. So it's never really yours. And the transition, I was already in crypto at that time, and the transition to NFTs is just the most seamless transition you can make. It's essentially the ownership of blockchain, but then combined with gaming. And I think if there ever is a stadium where you could have ownership of items that you use in game that has this social aspect to it, but you could use it in multiple games. So I could have an item from World of Warcraft, but I could play with that item in Dota, for example. Or I could have a CryptoKitties like account, but I could use that skin to play in Fortnite. That's where the interesting things would happen. But of course, this is like dreaming, because we, from many aspects, that doesn't look realistic that it'll happen anytime soon. But if you sort of like set that vision into the future and you see what's theoretically possible, and you dial it back and you take it into something more tangible, albeit equally complex, and you go towards art, for example, then you very quickly open up that spectrum of possibilities and hyperconnectivity that you sort of like plug and play your art into multiple things. And I think the one thing I was trying to explain it earlier today, like, why is it interesting? And that's maybe a question that I'll ask to the other guys here, if you agree or not. I think in a world where pretty much everything is going digital, it's only a matter of time until there's the next pandemic and we can't go out like entirely anymore. And like we'll I mean, most gamers already live their life digitally anyway, but I think there will be a stage where our life will get more and more digital. And if you then have ownership of certain art, and it's just a way of expressing yourself, but you can use your art to express who you are in that digital environment, that's something it's just a new type of Twitter or TikTok or anything. But it's maybe a long vision, but I don't know if that's where you guys see. I don't know, Jay, what do you think about this? Because you've said like you have this digital mindset as an artist, but also you've been in blockchain for quite a while. Do you think that's something that we could see, realistically speaking, in say 10 years from now?
Yeah, I think that's the direction that it seems to be that we're trending a little bit. Yesterday I was having this conversation with a non-crypto friend, and he was like, I'm not going to care if I can just copy and paste digital art and have the same exact pixel to pixel replication of the original. And I'm not the one to say, hey, I have the original, look at this transaction ID or this QR code, things like that, just to prove it's, to verify it on chain effectively. And then I ended up going into Telegram to see, like, I was like, I've asked this question before to the super rare guys in 2019. And just for everybody listening, and then I think on the panel too, I was like, this was the time when it was a super bear market. ETH was at $130 US. And I was just asking the questions of the basics of like the copy and paste function. How do you combat that? How do you, yeah, exactly. That's exactly the meme that Elon Musk, I know, tweeted that meme too. And that still to me doesn't quite make that much sense, but I realized it doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense to me. It matters for the people that are collecting it. So if there's enough people who are in agreement that this is something that matters, and for example, the perfect analog I drew was with the art world. A lot of art collectors will probably have art either displayed in their homes, or sometimes there's this act where they display the replica in their homes and have the actual real version in some like safety deposit box or some like physical custodian is taking care of it, because some of these pieces are millions of dollars. Why would you want to hang $1 million painting in your home and someone trips over and accidentally cuts it open or something, and the whole piece is devalued? So it's more of this strange paradigm that isn't that familiar to normal folks. And I think that's where I've come to the kind of accepting that idea, and then saying, okay, there's probably going to be this future where we have digital art, and people who care about it will care about it, and people that don't. And that's totally fine. And I think trying to merge the two worlds of the physical and the digital is an interesting direction. Like, for example, there was a project, I forgot what it was called, Atomic something. They're creating physical displays with the ability to like have on-chain data show through QR codes, so people who cared can kind of scan it and see if it's verifiable on chain. Do I think a lot of people will scan it and care? No. But do you think maybe the crowd on this panel and maybe some other collectors might care? Maybe. Yeah, maybe not Aleksei, but that's kind of like where I'm kind of trending towards. Yeah, I think this will probably have a future, but I'm still kind of asking the right questions, as I think we all are.
I just have one question about this pieces of art, let's call it so. How do you guys think? Should, for example, I don't know, a tweet from Jack Dorsey cost, I don't know how many, $2 million? It's not a piece of art. It's just a tweet, or it's just like, for me, it's a nonsense. Actually, why a tweet? Actually, an image like I don't know, 500 pixels, why they should cost $2 million bucks? I have only one answer for it. It's a bubble, and people are just trying to hype on this topic right now. As for example, a couple years ago, DeFi was just a hype. There were no products. There were no actual products which you could use. Like, I don't know, Uniswap just appeared, and maybe that was the only DeFi or DeFi product at that time. But many teams were trying to hype on the topic. As far as I can see right now, it's the same. Like, many people try to hype on this topic. Some of them see some value in storing NFT and just understanding that, yes, I do own an NFT of this song. Nobody knows about it, but I do own this NFT, and it makes me, I don't know, I feel better when I get up every morning and I understand that I own an NFT of a song. But what's the actual utility of this token? It's, for me, it's just like, I don't know, it's a bubble. Would you like to agree with me, or to argue with me, guys? Or maybe agree?
I agree that the main reason why people do buy these NFTs is speculative interest. They just want to resell it later, probably.
Is there a secondary market? We have just discussed it before the call, actually. So is there a really second market? For example, if we talk about NBA shots, I can understand that there are collections. There is a secondary market, because if you have the full collection, then you can sell it with a better price and so on. But if we talk about pieces of art, is there really a secondary market? And do people care about selling items, or maybe they're just collecting now?
For me, the secondary market looks dead. At least there are almost no users who buy NFT arts from someone, not from artists. But maybe people who buy NFTs, they believe that in the future there will be a huge secondary market and no artists. So they just play in the long term. Maybe that's the reason.
And that's also a question which comes up to my mind, is like, there are people with many followers on Twitter, on Instagram. They try to sell NFTs, and it perfectly makes sense. They're kind of selling, I don't know, swag. It's almost same, but instead of physical things, they just sell digital items. Okay, that's fine. But when people try to sell it, like a no-name artist just painted something in 10 minutes in Photoshop and selling it on the marketplace with, I don't know, $1,000, and people really actually they buy it for some reason, then I just can't understand it. So do you have any ideas, guys, like why people buy such items. Because okay, it may look interesting, but you can buy the same thing, the same image file in, I don't know, with $100 without a token. So where is the reason to buy a token instead of just buying a picture from the author?
I think that question is a different question than the initial question, like why are people spending $1,000 on like a no-name artist? I think the topic of does buying the NFT behind a digital piece of art, does that make sense? I think we could discuss on that for like hours, because it's probably down to a personal preference. Like, do I care if I have the original, the real version, and other people are just using the digital copy of it? I think that's an endless topic. But the question of does it make sense to buy these things at like ridiculous prices versus someone who has, from an artistic point of view, doesn't necessarily have the skill that other artists have? I mean, you have to look at it this way. It's a bunch of people who very likely have made large amounts of money, don't necessarily have the. I mean, buying art is an art on its own. Like it's the same as buying old timers, like buying expensive cars, like buying race cars. Like it's an art on its own. Sure, you could have. Like you can make a few $1 million, and the number one thing that you would do is, okay, I'm going to go and buy out, like I'm going to buy an Aventador. That's the logical flow of thought. Does that mean that you have a great taste of like cars? Not necessarily, but you can, because you have the money. And I think that's kind of a similar story as we're seeing here. Like, it doesn't mean that these early artists that are supported are necessarily the best artists that we'll see in the next 10 years and turn out to be like absolute stars. I think it's more a matter of like being in the right place, being in the right time, and finding the right audience. Does it mean that this art will go down in history as the new Picassos? Maybe. I don't know. I do think, and I'd like to like make the analogy again to what I've seen on Counter-Strike. In Counter-Strike, it's even worse. Like you were buying a bunch of pixels. Sometimes you would get them airdropped randomly at the end of the game. And in some cases you would get like a little box, and you could buy a key for around $2. And then with that key, you could open that box and you get a random skin out of that. But some of these skins were traded back and forth, and that was the nice part about it. There was an integrated secondary market in the game, so you could buy like a skin from anyone in the world, and he could name his price, and you'd just have a full like supply and demand market. But people would buy these skins for thousands of dollars, like literally thousands of dollars. Some of these skins, and it's like one skin, you would pay $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for like the really unique ones. And the only people who would see that you have that skin is the 4 people that you play with on your team, who are your friends, who know that you have it already, and then the 5 other people on the other side of the team, and they would only see it if you died and they pick up your gun, or they see in a kill cam that they were killed with a unique gun. So it's like a super small group of people that you could brag about, like, hey, I have this skin. So what Jay said earlier about like, if it means something to these people, of they attribute value, and there's a sufficiently large amount of other people who also attribute that value, then you have bragging rights. It doesn't matter if it's 10 people or it's just your friends. I do think that we're in a bubble. I don't think anyone here will disagree that we're not in like bubble territory for NFTs, but I think it's similar to what we saw with the ICO bubble, like last bull run. It's a way of like finding the boundaries of what's reasonable, and then in a year or 2 from now, we'll have like a base foundation of what remains and what was absolutely redundant. And then we'll probably have a lot of people who either lost a lot of money, made a few like stupid acquisitions, but some people will just hold on, and with a bit of luck in the next bull run, people will still sell that art for profit.
Well, actually, if we talk about skins in games like Counter-Strike or something like that, at least you could use them. Like you play and people see that you own this, I don't know, very unique something. So at least there is some kind of utility, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
in that sense, for me, like NBA shots, it makes sense for me because
Absolutely.
as far as I know, in the United States, it's very common when people collect physical cards of players or something like that. So Jay, maybe you know it a little bit better than us because here in Russia and Europe, as
No one
far as I know,
collects
nobody.
cards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No one cares about it actually.
I would say the collectibles thing is very reminiscent to like growing up. I remember I don't even like baseball that much, but I collected baseball cards so frequently, and you would just open packs and you'd get a rare one, and then you'd hear like this rare one is literally like valued at $10,000 on the secondary market, but it wasn't efficient. You had to either get an appraisal from some like third party to say that this was authentic, then you'd have to go and find other people who would want to buy it. So the marketplace I don't think was efficient. Top Shots also is interesting because Top Shot isn't actually on an open platform. They do have an auction function, but it's not technically a secondary market to me just because it's only specific to Top Shots and it doesn't go beyond those bounds. I think the thing that's making this super complex that I think we're hitting on a little bit is there's so many different pieces of the NFT ecosystem right now that are very big and generating so much hype that everyone just goes like, even in this conversation, not that we're intending to, but you go, oh, NFTs, and we all kind of batch one thing. So for example, like the Jack Dorsey tweet, I think is vastly different from the Top Shots. And I think the Top Shots is vastly different from like, I don't know if you guys know the game Gods Unchained, which is like a trading card game that mints everything through ERC 721s. I don't know how well they are doing, but I think their use case or their problem that they're trying to tackle, which maybe is more into what Sten was talking about with gaming, is also vastly different. But they're all the same technology, right? They're all bucketed into NFTs. So it's kind of like, I think, yeah, again, the bubble question, I think everyone would say yes. I think we are in one. It's just a matter of what truly holds value. And then I think the last thing I'd add is with the utility question, I think a lot of the space, as we're all very much like tinker mentality, hacker mentality type people, we're all trying to figure out whether or not it's a good way to do it. I'm not sure, but we're all trying to figure out how to add utility. So with NFTs, like we were talking about this earlier, using like, I guess this, again, that's not really ERC 721, but if you talk about Unisocks and having that as collateral to earn variable interest or earn interest in general, that to me is very interesting because now you're saying, hey, something that only existed in a kind of a silo where it's like, okay, or for the beholder, where it's like this card or collectible is super valuable for me, now can be used to do actual work and is actually generating revenue for you or pretty much giving you more financial freedom. So that new direction to me is very interesting. And I'm not, again, sure about the macro implications. I guess we'll see. But NFTs are liquid by nature. They're not fungible. So it's just harder to kind of sell en masse and buy en masse. So maybe that's also by design is helping the marketplace be fairly stable. But I guess we'll see. We'll see like if we have one of these again in like 6 months or a year and we're all, you know, super depressed or super happy as to which direction it went.
Yeah, actually, you have mentioned one thing which I didn't think before. Like, actually, let's call it. There are vanity metrics for startups. You just show something and you say, "Hey, I'm cool. I'm really good at something." And I don't know, we are a great startup. That's how NFT should also work, right? So you just show to somebody that you own NFT and they think that you are cool, and that's enough utility for many things in the world. So maybe yes, you are not going to use it in a game or something, but you will just show it to your friends, tell them, hey, I am one of the, I don't know, 350 people who own the Unisoc, and yeah, that's why I'm so special. That's the reason actually why people will collect NFTs, I guess, in the nearest future, and that's enough utility. Why not?
Just like art is also full of vanity. You just go, hey, I have this one thing that some person who's dead has painted. Like, what does that honestly mean to any of us?
Who is dead for, I don't know,
Like,
couple hundred years?
Yeah, hundreds or thousands of years.
Yeah. That's true. Okay, guys. So, what do you think about the market? Like, we all agree that it's a bubble. But at the same time, we think that there are cases where NFTs are pretty good, where what they are pretty interesting. Let's call it so. But what's going to happen with the market? Because as far as I know, the number of the how much money is in the NFT market is like declining for 2 months or something. And the number of trades is also declining for a month, at least for a couple of weeks already. So what do you guys expect in the nearest future? Will people still, I don't know, in 6 months, will they try to use NFTs to buy, to sell, to speculate on it? Or this is just maybe a beginning of the bubble?
It's a good question. Can I answer it somehow?
Yeah, sure.
Because it's like critical part of everything. And before I started, I actually created the NFT while we are talking. The screenshot of us, it's already placed on OpenSea, so you can buy it for like 0.1 if it's already.
That's why you're so quiet over there.
Yeah, it's like I just created an NFT and trying to sell it. It's like this is how it works. And it's
let's sell it for $1 million.
No, it's like it started from 1 ETH, but it's like open auction, so you can put your bid and it will grow. So it's basically a mentality of everyone who's creating NFTs, and I did the same just as an example. That it takes like 5 minutes to create, to deposit, to upload the screenshot. Now it works. I tweeted it there everywhere, so guys, you can buy it. Please do it. Make me rich, please. And this is a problem because most of people right now who are actually creating noise around, they are suppliers. I mean, those are digital artists, whatever, like random people, influencers, who are creating different kind of shit art, creating noise in Twitter and everywhere, and creating the image that the NFT is something good and everyone is trying to buy. But actually, it's like the supply side is growing much faster than demand side, because it's like, and more noise will be there, the more disappointments will be for actual collectors, because you cannot distinguish the shit art from the real ones. And it's like it's something which is already happening. Like every single influencer in my Twitter feed is actually tried to sell some items, and I don't know why, because sometimes it's just copy paste. I don't know, it's just like screenshot from something without any utility here except collection. But collection works only for scarce assets, right? Not for like thousand millions of different like screenshots and tweets, etc. So the bad side here is that we have increasing of supply side much faster than actual collectors or actual buyers here, or those who will be in the long run here. Of course, in NBA, it's another context because it's already established community, etc. Probably they even don't know about crypto. They just working in their own circle. But for the like broader meaning, it looks like a tulpan thing. And the problem is everyone is able to create any art. Even I can open the OpenSea, find some, popular assets, just copy and paste them, and I can do the same kind of activity as everyone is doing at the moment. So yeah, the thing is supplier side. We have to somehow filter it and somehow create the thing to decrease the noise around. Yeah.
Moreover, Alexei, you can now imitate demand on your picture. You can buy it from another account.
Let me put another bid from another account. One moment.
Yeah,
I forgot.
Yes. You can put a bid for $10,000, and everyone will think that you are crazy artist, big future, and the next picture will be sold for more.
Yeah,
That's the point. Yeah, 1 ETH. Good bid.
So watch trading example live, right?
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening right now on the streaming. So
just demonstrating how shitty is it.
You just mentioned one good thing. Actually, NBA, the Top Shots, they just digitalized what's happening in the real world, right? So their physical cards, they just put it online, and instead of just a picture, they used GIFs or videos. So you just have a better version of thing which already exists, right? So that would be a great example of a good NFT usage. But I do agree, I fully agree with you that just making a screenshot and posting it online and trying to sell it for a couple of millions of bucks,
Myself.
it's crazy, kind of crazy. So yeah, as Jay already mentioned, if we talk about NFTs, there are good examples of how NFTs can be used in the future. There are so thinnest, which may be also like, why not? If people like it, why not? But they are also examples where you just, I really, I cannot understand why a tweet should cost 2 or even more millions of dollars. I just cannot understand it. Why, like a picture of a tweet, I don't know, in a couple years Twitter will change their user interface, the design, and you will even not understand was it original or not, or it's just like, okay, nonsense for me. The next question which I have is for Jay, actually. Are there NFT marketplaces on Avalanche? Other projects trying to build something like that?
Yeah, there are a bunch of NFT projects that are starting to pop up. I think there are just a lot of opportunists coming into new chains. Like Avalanche is relatively new because it got launched in September of last year. And so you're seeing that. And then I think right now the secondary markets are also trying to capture that demand within that niche as well. So I think that's what we're seeing. Polyant Games is a partner that we've been working with for a while. They've been trying to integrate their Polyant DEX, which is an NFT DEX, into Avalanche. So that's kind of the only one that I would say is public that is worthwhile mentioning, but there are plenty of other solutions coming online. I think what's interesting is exactly what we're talking about. Like, I think right now we're seeing a lot of the hype coming into our ecosystem, and that's where we're going to try and see what works and what doesn't. Like CryptoPunks, I think, is a good example of something that is like, it's not really high value, it's not high value art, or it's not done by an artist, it's just kind of pixel art, but it has this internet culture backing it. And so the vanity comment, that you were saying, and the idea of like, if you have a group of people that think it's worthwhile, then that's all it needs, essentially. And with CryptoPunks, I would say it's just really hardcore ETH users, a bunch of people who got in early, and then I think perhaps a little bit of the price action kind of started to make people who weren't in it more interested, and that's how it took off. I think another good example is people would be like, all right, well, if you think about time horizons, wouldn't the first NFT project be the one that's most valuable because that's the one that's been around the longest? But if you look at the first one, which is CryptoKitties, it's not necessarily true. And I think also CryptoKitties, they made it too complex. You can have ERC 721s on top of ERC 721s, and you can have like accessories. I think they were trying to replicate non-Web3 collectible functions way too early in the space. And imagine if you need to pay $50 in gas costs or $100 in gas costs, and you need to actually interact with the CryptoKitties, it makes absolutely no sense to do so. And so that's kind of maybe also you need the simplicity. And I think Top Shots does that really well. Top Shots, you actually don't interact with crypto at all. It's all transacted in fiat, or at least from the user perspective. I know it's settled in the backend, I believe, with the Flow blockchain. So that's kind of where they were able to do something easy and then get the hearts and minds of the people that were on the fence and now are willing to play around the product. I think another good example is not in the NFT space of someone who did this was Uniswap. Before Uniswap, Bancor was an AMM with the token model, but the way they created these marketplaces and liquidity pools were way too confusing for people that weren't like super integrated into crypto. And AMMs are also a new thing, so people didn't really understand what was going on. And Hayden came into the space and said, hey, why don't we just do X times Y equals K? That's it. And everyone's like, okay, that's not the most efficient equation, but I think I get it. And then the liquidity pools just started growing. And then the trustless nature of the whole thing is what I think made it so there really wasn't a limit. And I think we're seeing that growth now still.
But anyway, it wasn't fast. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't fast. No way. And I think we're still seeing that happen. And also it's like these projects could also just come back down too. It's not like infinite upside either. There could be a new innovator. I think SushiSwap and the new AMMs with liquidity mining seem to have threatened the existence of the originals, at least the short term. I think right now it's tapered off a little bit. And then another question I actually had, kind of random, and back into the NFT conversation, is what happens if the NFT, the layer 1 protocol that your NFT exists on no longer exists? like do all the assets go down with it?
Cross-chain.
Yeah, so everyone has to panic cross-chain swap to an existing chain, which seems a little bit advanced. Like I think people on this call could probably do it, but I don't know about some random friend who just got into Top Shot like last week.
Yeah. So while we are talking, the new bid appeared actually. Someone who is not me just increased the bid for 5 times. So we are still in progress.
Hey, someone outbid me. That's not nice.
Yeah, it's nice screenshot.
I was the 0.1, 0.01. I was that one. I was outbid. I think maybe a topic that we touched on earlier. Like, is this a bubble? Do you think it's fair to say that whether it's a bubble or not, the bubble will burst when Bitcoin's bubble will burst? As in, like, from the moment that we move into a bearish market sentiment, I think anything is going to follow. I think that the 2 nice additions of the past bull run are no doubt like DeFi and NFTs. But I think DeFi will maintain its not everything, but the core things in DeFi will maintain their activity. I think even the more bearish that the market gets, the more that people will jump into stable coins and they'll try to like earn yield for the next year or 2 on these stable coins. So I think most of the DeFi tokens like Curve, YEarn, Compound, etc., like Aave, I think they'll see maybe even increased traction in the next year or so, 2 years. But I don't think that NFTs have reached that same level of real utility yet. Do you think that's a fair statement?
Speaking about real utility, I think NFTs can reach real utility when we will have legal base for it. Actually, there is nothing, as far as I know, there is no legal base for it. You buy just a token on chain, but I don't know, you don't have any rights to use a tweet from Jack Dorsey, for example, or you cannot do anything with it from a legal perspective. I mean, so if we will have some
there's
regulations
still no legal
or
perspective for crypto either. Like sure, I have a Bitcoin, but I can't use it.
I have a different point.
Depends on what country I'm in, but if I want to use it in like countries, even in Russia, India, like a lot of it is still illegal.
One important thing about crypto and NFTs is actually if we are looking at NFTs as their like definition, which is non-fungible, it's actually can be really useful for DeFi, because if you look at different portfolios and locked assets, vaults, and whatever, like different combination of that assets, it's actually it can be represented by NFT, and you can actually create different kind of portfolios with different types of assets, farms, yields, whatever, like locked assets with different farms or yield farming services, etc., and with different risk ratio, etc. You can actually sell them. It's kind of access to the wallet or access to the portfolio. So potentially it has a lot of use cases even within DeFi space. Because in that sense, you are not if you're gonna sell it, you are not spending money for each transfer or whatever. You can just transfer one NFT, which makes sense, especially on ETH. On other chains, it doesn't make sense probably, or it's just not so expensive. But anyway, for a particular example of Ethereum, if you have a lot of like thousands of different shitcoins, some of them can cost potentially more than gas you spend for them. So it definitely makes sense. And this is only one example. So I think right now it's a good time for hype, because the NFT became a meme. so everyone can understand and understand the nature of non-fungible assets. But even in DeFi, it has a lot of applications without any kind of legal enforcement for those who has or don't has proper rights for something. It can be programmatically done if you are looking at NFT as like access code or ownership right for something.
Yeah, but it's a technical thing then. It's just I don't know, just a tool how you can make sure that you have transferred the ownership of the whole portfolio instead of transferring tokens one by one, something like that, if I got you right.
Yeah, it's actually a good thing.
Yeah, I just Googled NFT and just there are at least 3 news from just today, like American football champion Tom Brady's launch NFT platform. Coinbase CEO is releasing a collection of music NFTs. Auction house Sotheby's is hosting its first NFT sale next week. So this is just news for one day about NFTs. So I guess this would be the last question. How do you guys think, I'd like to ask all of you, how can NFTs become big? Or is it already big enough and it will just, I don't know, continue growing?
I think before I answer the big question, maybe one other thought to add to the mix that I was thinking a long time recently, or like more recently, is the idea of normal brands using NFTs as an advertising mechanism. And so if we think about it, the reason why I thought about this recently was there's an American company that makes sliced meats like for sandwiches, and they made an NFT. And I was like, this is kind of stupid. But then I also was thinking, all right, well, way before digital collectibles existed and the function of NFTs existed on chain, imagine if they created a collectible with sliced meats. Like what do you do with that? Like, it's kind of like a easier example would be if you stayed at, like, I'm trying to think of a really boring example. If you think about a Hilton hotel and a Hilton was like, you win a Hilton stuffed animal, like that value is not tradable. It's not seamlessly transferable amongst the people that care about the Hilton brand. And so you just have this teddy bear and you can't do anything with it. But now they can permeate into the digital space and actually use it as an advertising mechanism. And so it's like only 5 of these, like, I don't know, like Hilton photos of the Hilton hotel, or like, again, the sandwich meats, like these slices of meats can exist. If there is a fan base for it, then it will have a marketplace. And so I think you're going to see a lot of brands add more legitimacy to the NFT space, like non-crypto brands. And I think that's like one kind of early signal of potential like long-term resilience to kind of the volatility.
One thing to add, I just read yesterday that McDonald's is going to issue NFTs, and it reminds me 2017 when Burger King issued. They issued their own token on Waves blockchain in 2017. It was like very big story, like all media, like, hey, like ICO. It's the next thing, the next big thing, and yeah, Burger King is issuing their own token on Waves blockchain.
Whopper coin is actually right. Whopper coin.
Whopper coin, yeah, that was the name.
Does that still exist? Where is that?
No, it's just that. That was just a marketing campaign actually from Burger King. So technically, it was implemented on Waves, but as far as I understand, they didn't talk with the team. Almost didn't talk with the team. They just wanted to hype. They just used this hype train to get some attention, to market their products actually. So it just like, it feels the same. Like in 2017, they issued the token, nothing actually happened. They just used this topic just to get some attention. Maybe it's gonna be the same with NFTs. That's what scares me, because
the ICO is dead right now, and everyone is using another word, which is EDO. So it's like they just killed one word to create another.
The quick counterpoint, maybe half counterpoint to that, is token economics is super hard. Collectibles is not.
Yeah.
So okay. I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, going back to the question. How NFTs can become big? How do you think? Like Stan, Aleksei, Vladimir?
the question is why it should. It's okay if the real adoption from the people who are gonna sell something and they just trust each other, and they will use the NFTs as like registry of ownership. It's actually a big thing. It's the biggest thing ever, because it's like, it's a decentralized ledger which collects all information about who is owning what, and in the physical world they can exchange it somehow. But anyway, everything is in the records already. So this will be huge. But it's like, mass adoption dream, and I don't think it will be soon implemented. Probably it will somehow, but we will not speak about NFT hype anymore. It will be just technology for that. And the main question is why it should be big, because it's just NFT is just specification for the token, right? Like non-fungible. And what?
They can become big because they are using.
It is baked with an image, with a file. Almost all other tokens are baked with nothing, but NFT is backed with a bunch of pixels.
Alexei did a picture. So
just
a good way
sarcasm, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
And I'm not joking. I'm not joking. Some random person already trying to buy. It's not me. I only did 2 bits. So it's like the new guy joined. It's just crazy.
So the bid is $200 or $100, right?
Yeah, I started from small, to grow big.
You're a good marketer of this NFT.
What was the gas to pay this?
Let's not talk about it. It's another story. But honestly,
more than the bid.
to become eligible for listings, I paid like $100 to have rights to post the NFTs. And for posting NFTs, I paid like $10. And for each bit, I'm paying $10 as well. So it's like. It's
and for canceling as well, because if you cancel, you also pay around like $15 to cancel.
Oh no, I will buy it. I will buy it myself, so no canceling needed. It's nice.
I see an advantage in NFTs. Coming back to the question, maybe I see an advantage of NFTs is that they're really easy to use, and most of the people understand them. They understand the technology of blockchain. An example of NFTs. That's non-fungible token that rescues your right for ownership. Many people understand how it works, and that's a good move for the full industry, actually. Do you agree with it?
Kind of.
Yeah.
The Ponzi's are actually good for mass adoption, because people engaging with each other and selling stuff and teaching how to use MetaMask. It's like, in that sense, it's it sounds good. Whatever Ponzi they have.
I'm gonna make that exact audio clip into an NFT. That's actually the missed opportunity right there. I've never heard that. That was awesome. To Vladimir's point about simplicity and use, I think I'm gonna build on top of that idea. I think what might make it big is, again, the more established brands that have brand value. Like, what is actually brand value? Brand value is also speculative in nature as well. It's like, how does it resonate with you from a time perspective? Does it impact your family? If your parents use that one brand, that certainly has value to you or not, depending on how you see it. There's also ways in which you see the world. How do you think the brand permeates through the world? Things like that. So with Top Shot, I think they're doing a really cool idea with actually keeping it closed and not kind of involving like the on-chain mechanisms that we're all used to within our space. And so hopefully there's going to be a lot more of these really low-hanging fruits that exist in the space, where like Top Shots make sense because NBA's already had NBA collectible cards, at least in the US. Yeah. And those certainly did really well for the last couple of decades, at least in terms of demand. And so now they're bringing it into the digital space. You're going to have that with MLB. MLB actually did try it, but their implementation was terrible because the art itself was actually so bad. So you kind of need all the right pieces. And then I think once these closed systems or hybrid closed systems start growing out, then hopefully someone will come in and say, we can make interoperability with all these marketplaces and create this very nice focused secondary market where the true demand and hopefully not so speculative demand exists. And then I think that's where we can slowly start growing it. I think the problem with our space is because everything's so open, you just have this, again, bull run where everyone just tries everything and you just can't even understand what's right and what's wrong. And even in the conversation that we're having right now, we're not even none of us are really truly sure as to what direction we're going.
It's always again direction.
Unpredictable. Always. Okay, that's another soundbite. NFTs number 2 for the set for Aleksei.
Okay, we started collecting NFTs without full circle. I like it. This is how it works, you know.
Yeah, we solved it.
Awesome.
Stan, what do you think? How NFTs can become big?
I think we touched on a very good topic in multiple of the discussions, regardless of whether it was more art focused or like game focused. I think the secondary market, not just the fact of having it, and also the capacity of like having real secondary like market demand, that will be crucial, because I think if and that's kind of what we're seeing now, like a lot of the NFTs are just being bought, and it's like, oh, it's super cool, I bought an NFT. I have some friends and they've been like scooping up some NFTs, like, oh, I bought an NFT for like 20 ETH and I sold it for 50, and it's all like rose petals and moonshine, as long as it like keeps following that trend. And then from the moment that one of them sort of like stops, you already lose out on the gains by having that one thing that you sell at a total loss. And I think once that starts happening, and it's already happening, the secondary market demand will just drop entirely. And that's kind of what I think will be crucial going forward in the next few months, like how much of that demand is going to maintain. And that's where you've mentioned a good point, like how much utility is there really behind, like what mechanisms are there to generate real demand for these NFTs rather than just a speculation. And that's where I think a lot of the NFT protocols, whether it's art focused or game focused, like will probably really rethink their strategy of like how they let the NFT integrate in whatever it is that they've created. And in that aspect, I think Jay also mentioned a good point, where something like meme protocol, where you essentially literally have your NFTs, your memes generating income through you, all because you're essentially inside a closed off circle where the only point of continuing the role of getting new NFTs requires you to have some financial engagement by putting up some collateral, and you have this like yield farming versus NFTs. That's a really cool, let's say, cross-pollination between different types. And I think we'll definitely see more of that. I think it would be really cool, something like Axie Infinity, for example. The new, let's say, little Axies that you have to buy, they're essentially always more expensive. At least they were a while ago. Like you couldn't buy any Axie that was cheaper than the raw cost that it was required to get to that point. So people would always sell them at a slight premium. And that's just mind-boggling, because it essentially means that you that it means that you can play a game, but because of you playing that game, you essentially you're making money. And that's just a matter of like supply and demand. But I think once we start mixing that with yield farming, and you actually give people the capacity to earn like an active income by playing a game, that's where things will start getting really interesting. And that could be something that could catalyze like a really big audience in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, great.
I have also one idea about how to make NFTs big. We can use NFTs as a collateral for stablecoin.
So we will have stable coins backed by pixels?
Yeah. It will create demand for...
Sounds very interesting. Like,
yeah, it is. It is.
Call to Bitfinex, please, and tell them that you have a better idea than USDT. baked by, I don't know, with
no reason. We can just launch it as a, in a fair launch, so it will work. And which kind?
No,
which
it should definitely compete with the USDT in terms of like what is behind the stablecoin actually.
But it will be community driven, and also there will be governance token to vote for which NFTs will be will be whitelisted for using them as a collateral. So in that sense, it's like. Please don't launch this product. It actually sounds pretty cool.
Like sounds too good to be true.
It actually sounds too good. No. It sounds like already launched product. I don't know. I haven't checked yet. Probably it's already launched on Avalanche, on Waves or Waves. We have to check it again.
I checked the Whopper coin, by the way. Yeah, there's a Wikipedia page about it. Pretty cool.
Okay, guys. I think we have discussed NFTs pretty good, and I really loved this conversation. So thank you for joining. Hope we will have more streams like this about other topics. So to the listeners and to the watchers, if you have any ideas what you would like to watch and listen about, please leave comments on YouTube. And also, I think it's a good idea to ask you to make your bids. This is NFT, so like. I think the fair price is around like 10K bucks. So we are going to wait.
No financial advice. You have to use.
Not a financial advice at all. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, just.
So thank you very much, guys, and have the best day.
Yeah, it was awesome conversation. Thank you, guys, and bye,
thanks, guys.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
So
I don't know, are we still live or not? I hope not, but